Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 360 Stacks in this thing, baby, representing Team Kings of Games. And today I'm actually going to be coming at you guys with my MATHMECH list. So I've been testing this deck quite a bit, come to a lot of conclusions, and then came to another conclusion, and then changed my mind, and then made my mind, and then changed it again. It was just like that kind of thing. The extra deck went through quite a few changes. The main deck went through a lot of changes. There were so many packages and staples. I mean, I just went through like a lot of research, and I was just like, CYBERSE. So I'm just sitting here like, okay, C Archiver, you know, Adignister, the Light Dragon Adignister, and I'm just looking at generic CYBERSE stuff, and I'm sitting here like, oh, what does this card do? Oh, what does this card do? You know, I'm just like looking around. I'm just like, man, let me just see what's popping with CYBERSE so I can see what I can get. Like, I was just fixated on what this deck can accomplish, what's the end goal, you know, what can I do, and I figured some cool stuff out, but I can definitely say the one thing about this deck that I did not figure out on my own was the Ibley lock. That's something I discovered myself, actually by one of my followers who just mentioned it, and then I was like, Ibley lock, okay, let's see what's going on, and then I figured it out, and I was like, oh snap. This deck is crazy. So now after all that practice and play testing, kind of like the trial and error process of just trying to mold it into what I wanted it to be, or just into something that's better than just like bottom tier roll garbage, because it was never that, but I just didn't want it to be that. I'm not saying it was, I just did not want it to be that. And then I was like, dude, this deck is crazy, right? Like, so this deck's insane. So like, you're in board if you open full combo, and I can actually show you guys the combo at the end of the deck profile, because this deck is pretty strong. You will have a Ibley lock, which is basically a VANITY'S emptiness, unless they play, like, Soundman Greats, I guess. You'll have a Cynet Conflict, which is an Omni-Negate counter trap. You'll have an IP Masquerena. You'll have a Super Factorial. And that's basically two Omni-Negates, a Pseudo Trishula, and IP Masquerena to go into Unicorn, Appaloosa, Bomber Dragon. That's already 4 interruptions. And then the fifth is basically the Ibley lock, which is crazy. Like, there's basically, if your opponent is not on a Link 1 to deal with it, like, they just can't out the Ibley. So they're already going to lose just to the Ibley lock. The Omni Negates are just, like, to reinforce the entire inboard. So it pretty much just, like, beats Dinos, it beats Virtual World, it beats Prank Kids, it beats Zodiac, it beats Dragon Links, it beats Infernoble, it beats, like, everything that's gas right now. Everything that's popular, every super strong deck. Like, it can even beat Eldritch, because you can't even summon Conquistador to, like, pop the Ibley, which is crazy. So, like, to a certain extent, I guess you could just send Golden Lord to target it, send it to the field, to the grave. But I think you guys are getting the gist of how strong the Ibley lock is, and that was the ceiling. That was the ceiling that I was looking for. So let's go ahead and get into the list. So I'm going to be starting off with the MATHMECH, because this is a MATHMECH deck profile. It just plays quite a bit of generic CYBERSE support. That does raise the consistency through the roof, and also helps the deck to actually have like an efficient win condition, so to speak. So we have 3 copies of addition, and then I'm also on 3 copies of subtraction. These cards are insane. I don't know why anybody would play any less than 3 of each. I do not care that they're hard ones per turn. The same people that would say I only play 2 because it's a hard ones per turn are the same people you'll see playing like 3 Desires, 3 Ash, 3 Extravagance. Like, bro, you just, like, these cards are like BAs. Just think of it that way. They're like just Burning Abyss monsters. They're free summons. They're extenders. If you play like Link Spider, there are plays you can make through Nib. It's just like, this deck is just really, really crazy. I like these a lot. These also really help with, specifically to Attraction, helps with interacting with Appaloosa, because it kind of like hard forces Appaloosa out, which is crazy, and you still could just normal after that. And then I'm also on 3 copies of Sigma. I think Sigma's crazy. Sigma's gas. The card is literally another BA. It's a free summon. A lot of the times that's how you use it, because you're obviously not going to like put a monster in the extra monster zone and then try to activate Sigma. You're going to use it before then. So it's basically a free summon. You want to try to XYZ with it, get it back in grave, so that you can have a follow-up, because that is a big thing with MATHMECH. They are not the best deck for grinding, and they don't really have crazy follow-ups. They might have one, and that would more than likely be, if you're not leaving Sigma in grave, it will more than likely be triggering CYBERSE Wicked on your opponent's turn via Super Factorial to get a Surge. But I'm not going to lie, like, the full combo it's very resource intensive, and it does commit a lot, but the end result is you will more than likely win the duel, because it's just very hard to deal with that. And then we do play 2 copies of Nabla. I consider playing 1 because my typically how I combo off is I basically use the wicked to search this, and then I special it either off of inverted, or if I banish the balancer lord, separate chain after I search this off wicked, I just special summon it out. And then I just tribute anything, it could be even itself, get a diameter on board, make the Alimbertane, and search my super factorial. And the purpose of Nabla in the combo, this is why this is part of every combo, whether it's full combo or not, is actually just to load 3 names in your grave. So he's going to get 2 names in your grave, and you need to have 1. So every time you try to combo with this deck, full combo will not happen if you don't start with a MATHMECH already in your hand to begin with, and you need to get it in the graveyard. After you get it in the graveyard, the Nabla will do the rest of your work by tributing him or another card, monster, just to get a diameter. Put both him and diameter in grave, get your super factorial. You have the 3 names so that now you can summon the Laplacian on your opponent's turn. With the diameter, that's the other niche and role that he fills, is if you did not see diameter, you will consistently get access to him through this via wicked, summoning this off of Cold Talker inverted or Balancer Lord. Either way you get it out, and getting diameter. Because if you cannot get diameter access, your Laplacian loses a lot of its value, because that Omni Negate is very important with interacting with a lot of these powerful decks in today's format. Especially if you did not get Ibly Lock, you need the full board that you can get. So definitely, Nabla does put in work, but I don't really use more than 1. That's why I've considered playing 1, and I play double diameter. This card's crazy. There are anti-Nibiru, anti-hand trap hands, where like if you basically have a lot of extenders and you have a diameter or a Nabla, either or, plus just like random cards that put their selves on the field, like a lot of these MATHMECHs do. You make an Alimbertane with 2 materials, detach the diameter in that, search your super factorial, and leave the Alimbertane up the entire time you combo. Put him on the zone, that doesn't matter. For me, I like to combo on the right side, so I leave him on the left side so he doesn't get in the way of my zone placement, because it can be pretty intricate in that regard. And I just leave the protection up, and based on the highest impact hand trap my opponent has, that's when I would decide to use the Alimbertane, which is just going to give you protection. I personally played 1 division and 1 multiplication. I really don't like these cards a lot. I think division has more applications, just in terms of like your inboard, what you can do with it, when it's like comes to assisting you to combo, than multiplication, because multiplication basically is just like the final signal play, and their names already give away their effects. Division, he halves an attack. Multiplication, he doubles. And this is kind of like, one of the easiest ways to go into the final sigma, and that's ideal what you want to do. You get the double, he's already doing double damage, you're giving him double attack. It's like the OTK, and that's understandable, but I just don't really like opening these, like, ever. I just want to get access to them via Nabla, or just finding any other way to just get them, whether it's off Signet Mining. But these are kind of like the worst MATHMECHs. This one's cool because like he will have interactions where like you could summon a Lady Debug from your hand or your grave, and another thing from your hand. But it's just like he doesn't really help you to get your. He's not like a starter, is what I would basically just sum it up with. But yeah, the 15 MATHMECH. It's really important to open a MATHMECH, because unfortunately, if you don't open a single MATHMECH, even though you get full combo, your super factorial will not be able to summon a Laplacian, which means you can't send the first monster your opponent normal summons to grave, so that they can't just go into a generic Link 2 to clear the Ibly. You want to force them to like be in a situation where they can't clear Ibly and they can't crash it because of the Salome Great Sanctuary, and like that's where you're winning from there, because they can't special summon. Speaking of, this card's crazy in this deck. This is probably like the best deck to play Ibly in right now, in my opinion, because Ibly is a combo piece in this deck. Like, she's not just a lock, she actually is a combo piece. And at that, she gives you protection. And here is the myriad of cards that Ibly counter. She's like a counter production card against those. So she counteracts Gamma unless you Gamma her, which means she's forcing the Gamma out. And you can also chain block with her in like cards like Perla XE to make sure she resolves. But she basically nullifies Gamma, Infinite Impermanence, Nibiru, Lightning Storm, evenly matched. She helps against Mystic Mine because your opponent will have that monster. So worst case scenario, you link into an Axis Code past the Mystic Mine dies, or you just use the Axis Code right then and there to pop the mine, of course, because you both have the same monsters. I don't know why I said past. That just was like first thing that came to my mind. Other cards that she's really, really strong against outside of those, I want to say, what are other hand traps that like summon themselves? I guess Phantasme, but not really, because you could just chain it. But mainly it's just the Evening, the Lightning Storm, the Mystic Mind, the Gamma, the Nib, the Infinite Impermanence, and she's just crazy against like the meta right now. She's crazy against Dinos. She's crazy against Virtual Worlds because they literally just don't play Links. Like they just don't play Links. Like their best bet is to open a level 6 Virtual World and Tribute Summon over her. Like that's their best bet. So just those cards alone. I'm sure there's more cards that will come up to my mind that she counters, but right now, I just think that's good enough. Like, just that list alone of all the cards that she counters, that's just, like, good enough already. So, she's actually like a pseudo Call by the Grave or Talents because of the 3 high impact hand trap. So, Nib's not, I mean, like, Imperm's not that high impact, but it is, like, a really, really strong hand trap. So, like, because of the 3 hand traps she cuts off, she's like a protection, allowing you to blanket your plays. So, once you've resolved her and she hits your opponent's field, you can combo a bit recklessly because you know that they can't Nib you, which is the most impactful hand trap against this deck. You know they can't Gamma you, which is crazy. You know they can't Imperm you. So you're basically just going to be playing around Ash and Valor and possibly Ogre at that. So she's just crazy in this deck. Really, really strong card. I definitely recommend play her. Signet Mining can search her. In some hands, you will have to use Lady Debug to search her and then special her off Inverted, then link with her. At the end of the day, as long as you just put her on your opponent's field, that's what matters. So Ibli's crazy. 2 copies of Balancer Lord. I've considered 3 because I do like this card. I love that it will force a Valor and Imperm on command. And because this deck has like literally what 15 extenders if I'm not mistaken. 15 extenders, like it's pretty easy to push through that. And he's crazy for the Wicked interactions because you can just banish him off Wicked, and then that gives you special summon that you don't have to burn Cold Talker Inverted off of. So that enables you to basically commit to like this right here. This is why I play the 2 debugs. Like, if you open all 3 of these normal summons, you can play all of them. That's why I don't care about anybody commenting, oh, that's too many normal summons. Because you can commit all these. Like, if you literally open all 3 of these, you can play them all in the same turn. Balancer for Ibli, give it to them. And then basically, you can go Balancer Lord from Banish Zone when you banish it off Wicked to summon the Lady Debug. Use her effect, search for Microcoder, and it's just going to be crazy now. And now you just summon your Inverted, get your Signet Conflict, just extend. It's crazy. So Balance Lord is really strong. I might consider 3, but right now with the Signet Minings, it's okay. And Microcoder kind of is like a pseudo searcher, which is coming up next because it does search for Signet Mining. So in awkward scenarios, it can unbrick your hands. It can get you access to Ibli. Sometimes you might just have to take that play, like where you just go into Cold Talker Inverted a bit earlier when you really didn't want to, just so that you can search that Ibli and try to get it on field as quickly as possible. And it does search the counter trap as well. It's just a really crazy card in this deck. That's why I play 3. That also brings me to this card. I really wanted to play Where Are Thels in this deck, but I actually cut it for some Kaijus because I just felt like Kaijus, with this deck in particular, are already crazy. And then I considered like all the decks that were like meta relevant, and I was like, oh yeah, Kaijus are really like... Kaijus are sometimes better than the hand traps in a lot of situations. And then I'm on 3 XE. This card's crazy in this deck. If you open a MATHMECH monster plus XE, it's basically like full combo in the regards of like Super Factorial, IP Masquerena shenanigans. If you open a Microcoder, an XE, and a MATHMECH, you're basically going to get everything except for the Ibli lock. So you get Super Factorial, Signet Conflict, IP Masquerena, like all the good stuff. And I do play 1 backup secretary. Operator is my proxy, but I do like backup secretary better than operator, so it's just a proxy pretended secretary because it makes Lady Debug like a 1 card that is basically like a really, really strong starter because it gets you to Disciple and Devotee off 1 card, and that already in itself triggers Wicked to search out a Nabla. So she basically... Lady Debug indirectly searches Nabla, even though he's like not a level, he's not a level 3 or lower. So she's like really, really strong in this deck, and that's like this is one of the cards that makes her so strong. Outside of like searching Microcoder, so like these are all the CYBERSE cards that I'm playing. Ibli is like crazy in this deck, like I said. And instead of hand traps, obviously it could be a playset of Gamma but I only own 1 Gamma to my name. I decided to actually main 3 Kaijus. The reason why I like Kaijus better than hand traps in this deck is that basically like Kaijus cover a lot of the ground that 1 hand trap cannot cover. Like if that makes sense. Like any 1 Ash, Imperm, or even if it's Nib or Gamma is not guaranteed to get rid of the problem that you're facing, but a Kaiju will. And a lot of Virtual World players are not playing around or respecting Kaijus. They're activating VFD the moment that you control a monster because they're respecting Gamma, which makes sense because Gamma's more likely to be main deck than Kaiju's. But this is why I like this, because you can basically just Kaiju the VFD at the start of your main phase, and that just deals with one of the biggest problems. In addition to that, it's good against Zodiacs, it's good against Dragon Links, it's crazy against Dragon Link. I keep a Kaiju versus any hand traps because I need my extra deck. I can't play without my extra deck with this deck. So just Kaiju in the Bustle Lock alone, you could force out all the other negates pretty easily if your hand's good enough. This deck is really good with baiting negates and playing through hand traps. It's really, really solid. So Kaiju's, again, just crazy. And they also really help you when you're going for this guy right here. It's crazy. It's so good. That's why I honestly would just play the 3 Gamma Seals because he's so tiny, but these are the names that I have right now. You guys are more than welcome to play hand traps. I have my reasonings. And then there are also our problems that I could be facing, where I can't really bank on a hand trap all time with this deck because if I throw too many resources at my opponent and they play through it and they still in on Dragoon or anything like that, I can't out that with 2 or 3 cards. That's why these are more trustworthy for me. And then moving forward, I'm on 3 copies of Signet Mining. This card's crazy in this deck. It's literally an extender or a starter or a recovery card, whichever one you need it to be. It's very flexible. And the 1 copy of Solomon Great Sanctuary. This is what prevents Ibli from crashing into any of your Link monsters, which is really, really strong. Another way to play around it that I used to do was just summon all my monsters in defense and leave no links on field, but that basically means it conflicts with conflict. Ironic enough, conflict conflicts. And also I can't summon IP, so I just really didn't like that. I like this better. It's really, really strong. 0 attack monsters can't crash. This is a really, really powerful field spell because of Ibli. 1 copy of Equation. It's just a 1-of. It's a searchable extender. I don't really like it that much. It does come up here and there, but oftentimes, because a lot of the MATHMECs put themselves on field relatively easily, and Alan Bertain can bring them back anyways, it's not you just need it. Honestly, you could just play Monster Reborn instead. I just like this because it's searchable. And I do play 1 Billion Blade because instead of playing 2 copies of Super Factorial, which I did want to play 2 because I think that this card comes up more than once, and I hate being able, I hate not being able to have a follow-up. I hate when my deck can only do that one thing one time. I don't like a one-and-done, one-trick pony. So I wanted to have a second Factorial just for a follow play in case of any scenario where I might need it. So instead of playing 2, I chose a Billion Blade because this card's crazy in its own regard. It's actually really, really strong, especially when you're going second. But also, it allows you to just add the Super Factorial from grave to hand. So it's a second copy of any MATHMEC card that you need it to be, or a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th, whatever it is. And then finally, this is my proxy for Signet Conflict. This is the counter trap that you search off Microcoder. It's really crazy. It's like Curse Seal of the Forbidden Spell, but for anything, which is nuts. For extra deck, Link Disciple and Link Devotee. These cards' existence is what makes this deck going first so good. In fact, this deck can do either or. You don't care too much about the dice roll. You could go first, make your basically unbreakable board, or you go second and OTK the mess out of your opponent with Lord knows how many attack statistics. And then Baylinks. I like Link Kuribo just for the Lost World against the Dinos, but this card's just way better for the Ibli lock, so that's why it's here over the Link Kuribo. And I actually do play Double Wicked. I love being able to play a grind game. I love having follow-ups. I hate that if my board gets broken, I have no play, so that's why I play the second Wicked. It's really important for me. I know some people will just probably play 1, but I'm just that guy that just I hate not being able to have a follow-up. That's one of my biggest pet peeves just in any deck. Inverted, this card's crazy. 1 Splash Mage and 1 IP Masquerena to round up all of the Link 2s. IP is actually really strong in this deck, and I'll get to why. And then Transcode and Access Code, again, shout outs to my boy James for this. And then I'm actually on Bomber for my IP target. Other people could play Unicorn, you could play Appaloosa. I think Bomber is crazy against everything right now that's popular, because this card is a non-once per turn Raigeki, and you could trigger it via Super Factorial, and basically summon Laplacian, detach 2, more than likely, because who's going to set, before you, when they know they're playing into your board, why would they set any spells or traps? So, detach 2, send from hand, send from Monster Zone to Graveyard, and then detach another on a separate chain link to protect it from being destroyed by Topologic Bomber, which is crazy. And then your opponent has to play around Bomber on top of that. So even if you don't have the Ibli lock, you could still basically set up a board wide plus 2 Omni Negates and a Pseudo Trishula, which is still 4 interruptions. which is nuts. And then I'm on Albertine and 2 Laplacians. I honestly wish I had 2 Albertines, but I only have 1. But the Billion Blade does let me recycle this, which is kind of a cool interaction. But this card's crazy. I sometimes, when I open gas, I summon one on my first turn and then use the second one off Super Factorial. This card's really, really strong. And it's an out to like anything that you could think of that's not unaffected. But it also is also an out to the Mega Clops, because it is an XYZ, which does come up, believe it or not. And then Final Sigma. This card's crazy. Like, this card is crazy. So let me check the timer here. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and get into the combo. So like the full like lock. Let's say that you have Ibly, a random MATHMECH that can put itself on field. And the best case scenario, for me personally, the best case scenario would be if you open Parallel Exceed, because it's just super duper strong. So like, let's say you just have like these 3 cards. It could be a combination of other cards, truth be told, but ideally you want Ibly, a MATHMECH that can get itself engraved, and an extender. This is like a really, really good one, because it allows you to chain block the Ibly. And if you don't have any other extenders in your hand, you unfortunately have to make Parallel Exceed Chainlink 1, just so that you can actually play Yu-Gi-Oh! But anyways, here's the combo. You're going to normal Ibly, link her into Link Disciple, and if you have no other extenders, which I personally do, just the subtraction alone is good enough. Based off of the rest of your hand, you can still make plays. You would go Chainlink 1 Ibly, Chainlink 2 Exceed, because if they have Gamma, you don't want them to negate this, and you don't want them to use the Skullmeister, because you want Ibly to hit the field at the end of the day. That's what's really important, because you could still get Baylinks. Like, you might not be able to put up a lot of negates, but you can still get Baylinks in Sanctuary, prevent them from crashing, and like that still might be decent enough. So I would go 1 Ibly, 2 Exceed, summon the Exceed here, give my opponent the Ib, resolve Exceed, and that also means now like I don't have to play around Nibiru anymore for this like the entire time. I'd summon Exceed all the way to the farthest left, because I like to combo in the right zone, and then I'd go ahead and link the Exceed off into a copy of Link Devotee, and then here's where the shenanigans start. Disciple, Tribute Devotee, draw 1, put it on the bottom. Generate 2 tokens, use 1 of the 2 tokens, and also the Link Disciple to go into Wicked. Use the final token. Since it is a CYBERSE, you're going to go ahead and link it off into Baylinks, which will trigger Wicked and Baylinks. And depending on what's more important, which to me, Baylinks is more important for the Ibly Lux, I would go Chainlink 1 Bell, Chainlink 2 Wicked. That's just me. Because like, notice how I even prioritize Ibly over Exceed. Now I'm prioritizing Bell over Wicked, which some people be like, but this helps you more. But it's like, at the end of the day, if they can't play Yu-Gi-Oh!, I don't care if they take a couple cards from me. So I'd banish the Exceed and go ahead and search out my Nabla. Where's Nabla? There we go. There's Nabla. So search out my Nabla, and then Baylinks is going to go ahead and grab me my Sanctuary. And from here, what you can do is go ahead and activate the subtraction. Just target the Exceed. Special summon him out. So now at this point, like, you will be able to get 3 MATHMECHs engraved, which is super duper important. You don't care about Baylinks being on the field anymore. It's already served its purpose. Sanctuary actually works on any Link monster. So like when your opponent basically like attacks any Link monster, you can actually make that play. So you don't need to control Sound Migrate to do it. So what I would do next is go ahead and take these 2 and link them into the Cold Talker Inverted, and basically trigger the Inverted to summon Nabla. Now, what would make this hand different is basically if the Parallel Exceed instead was a microcoder, you might not get as many bodies that you're getting, but you would get the Signet Conflict, and that is like the perfect in board. So I could show that depending on how long this takes, but if you open Ibly plus a MATHMECH and also the microcoder, it would still work out as well, because Ibly is the Link Disciple, the random MATHMECH that specials itself, like it could have been Sigma, start with him first, which is kind of bad because he benches himself, so you prefer Addition in that instance. Addition would come out and he'd be the Devotee, and you get all the way to this point, and then you would basically be using the Baylinks and the microcoder to make the Inverted, and then that would basically allow you to special summon the Nabla, that you search off Wicked, and you'd basically do the same exact combo you're doing now, except you would have Inverted plus the counter trap, and obviously just more shenanigans. I chose this one because this is a play that allows you to chain block Ibly, but just understand that if parallel exceed was microcoder, you would get signet conflict, superfactorial, you just get more negates. But I like this one in particular because it allows me to get the Ibly on the field no matter what, which is still for me is priority. But anyway, so we use those, went into inverted, triggered inverted, summon Nabla. Now you can go ahead, and since you're not working with conflict, you don't care too much about tributing inverted. But I personally probably would leave him up, so I would just tribute the parallel exceed off of Nabla and go ahead and special out a copy of diameter. That's what's priority. And then you're going to go ahead and overlay these two into Albertine, trigger his effect, detach, grab your superfactorial, and then you're going to activate Albertine, tribute the inverted, special out like any MATHMECH, and then link with these two into your IP Masquerena, because these are non-link monsters. Put it in Wicked Zone, and you have, basically, you're just going to activate the Sanctuary at the end, and basically off of this, you have the Superfactorial, the IP, the Wicked, and they cannot basically special summon. And what happens is the moment your opponent normal summons a monster, you literally just activate Superfactorial, special all of these, and you're going to put them in Wicked Zone so that you can get yourself a follow-up. Go Laplacian 1, Wicked 2, or Wicked 1, Laplacian 2. Either way, you're going to get the Omni Negate. In addition to that, try to take as many cards as you possibly can. Ideal scenario would be 3 if it's a perfect world. You have an Omni Negate. You've sent some cards from your opponent's hand and filled to the grave. You have IP, Wicked, and you've sent their normal summon, which means their extenders do not work because their extenders are not basically special summon a link monster from deck. So now, because a lot of people don't read Yu-Gi-Oh cards, the next thing they'll do is switch Ibly to attack. Basically, declare an attack, and you'd have to summon the Laplacian in D. I forgot to mention that. That is so important, you can't forget that. And don't forget, because I'm like rushing through this to search off your Wicked, because remember, he was part of the chain link. Get you your diameter, which is your follow-up, which is so important because you basically don't have any. And basically, they're going to attack Ibly into either one of these. You'll activate the Sanctuary in damage step, make either one that they're attacking 0. Since it's in damage step, you can't be like, oh, I redirect my attack. It won't work. They both have 0 attack. They won't die. So they're just stuck under Ibly. And at that point, before your opponent ends their turn, you could theoretically just use the IP and the Wicked, and you could just go into a bomber. But personally, I would keep the Wicked up and the IP, so that way I can get another search on my opponent on my turn off of Wicked, and I would just basically access code or Final Sigma. It totally depends like which route you want to go, because you will get another search off of a CYBERSE tuner off Wicked, which is crazy. So there's a lot of possibilities for your next turn. You will more than likely OTK your opponent, but that is just like the Ibly lock combo essentially. The other way to do it is if Parallel Exceed was simply microcoder, it would be basically the only difference with this is you would get the Signet conflict in the process of your end board, which is super strong, but I do not believe you would be able to get Ibly just based off those circumstances, like the minimal extenders. Basically, microcoder and Ibly are not extenders, so you would have microcoder, Ibly, and only one extender, and it has to be a MATHMECH that puts itself on field, otherwise it will not be full combo. But that is the gist of it. That's like the game plan, the win condition that you want to be accomplishing. And other than that, when you're going second, you just want to kaiju the crap out of your opponent and OTK them and blow their board up. Try as much as you can. And the cool thing with having so much gas in a deck like that is you can push through so many interruptions. Just diameter alone, using it as a material for like any of the MATHMECHs just gives you a blanket of protection. It's crazy what this deck can do. It's a really, really strong deck, definitely underestimated. It has like tier 2 ceiling right now in my opinion. But you guys can be the judge of that on your own. But anyways, God bless you guys. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Lord Jesus Christ. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done on earth just as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread, Lord, and please forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not to temptation, Father, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the glory, and the power, forever. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua, I pray. Thank you, Father. Amen. All right, you guys. Deuces.